Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This is going to be sort of a shorter video tonight just because, I'll be honest with you, I am starting to become under the weather, and I didn't want to avoid a second day of not putting out an actual weather video for you guys, so just wanted to get this out there tonight so that way we could sort of talk through what our current pattern looks like, sort of where we go from here for the rest of the week and into this weekend. So I'm not gonna, take 30 or 40 minutes like I usually do. Like I said, just because I don't know what I got, but I am not feeling so hot. So I will try to get out a video tomorrow as well, depending on how I feel. If not, it will probably just be a YouTube short. But just kind of, keep that in mind. We're going to take it day by day here. But if you do enjoy tonight's discussion, be sure to like and subscribe, share with family and friends. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. And actually, what I would like to do first is look at cod. I know a lot of folks would rather me just sort of dive into Weatherbell. While I do like Weatherbell, I also like pulling from the Go 16 on here. So if we take a look at the current jet flow, right, we're in this ridge trough pattern, right? And actually, let's go ahead and draw that in black. I feel like I make that mistake every single time. So we have a ridge out here towards the Pacific Northwest, and then we have a shortwave trough out towards the northeast. And this is really a circumpolar low, as you can see up here towards northern portions of Ontario, and then even getting back towards Quebec. Meanwhile, what you're seeing with these colors is actually cloud tops. So as we've talked about in the past, if you're seeing cloud tops sort of, around, say, the purple coloring, dark blue, you're looking at about -15 to -20 degrees Celsius. These are low cloud tops that are moving through the region. We're seeing some light snow flurries tonight across northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Meanwhile, with that backed flow, we're actually seeing more formidable lake effect snow showers out towards the eastern flank of Lake Michigan, and that also extends into the upper Great Lakes as well as the eastern Great Lakes. So when we talk about lake effect snow, I mean, this is a prime example of how you get it, right? You get a pretty broad backed flow that orients itself to where it's perpendicular to the lake, so it essentially cuts across. And if you have enough fetch, aka distance between shore to shore, you can get these lake effect snow squalls to form. We'll talk about that here during the discussion tonight and dive deeper into that. But this is all polar air, this whole jet stream that's bringing backflow. We're seeing below average temperatures from the upper plains and the upper Midwest all the way back into the Northeast and New England tonight. Meanwhile, for folks in the Gulf Coast states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle, Eastern Texas, we're seeing continued trends towards repeated rainfall chances as we see some stratiform precipitation move through the region tonight. This is a wonderful sign. This Pacific jet is really starting to cut through. We're seeing a lot more precipitation opportunities in areas that desperately need it, like New Orleans, like the Panhandle of Mississippi that continues to deal with exceptional drought. So this is a great thing to see. I know we always worry about flash flooding when we have a pretty dried up soil table. But in this case, it's actually, in the long term, a good thing if we see these repeated chances like the one we're seeing tonight. And this Pacific jet extends all the way back into the desert southwest, seeing some isolated showers just off the coast of California. Lastly, I kind of mentioned this at the top of the conversation, but the eastern Great Lakes are seeing some snow shower activity. Some of that is starting to leak a little bit more farther east into places like Connecticut and Massachusetts. Don't expect for those to really produce a lot of snowfall. The greatest chance of snowfall is really going to be for areas along the lakes. I'm talking about Erie, Pennsylvania. We're talking about Grand Rapids, Michigan, Traverse City, even up towards Marquette to some degree. So those areas are going to be really the culprits for much of this snowfall tonight, and especially going into tomorrow and by Wednesday morning. As this circumpolar low moves off to the east, we then should start to see these snow squalls quell as we get a different wind orientation that would not necessarily favor continuous snowfall, as well as backflow being reduced during that period. So, that being said, let's dive right into the snow squalls here, and I guess what we'll do is let's pull up some radar and show you some of what's going on here. And so as you can see, let's actually get a little bit closer. We'll use dual pole radar, and let's find one right near Michigan. And there it is, right? These are your snow squalls. You got quite a bit of heavier precipitation out towards Grand Rapids and even points north. You notice that your overall snow squalls are sort of sagging off to the south. And even though we're still getting this west to east snow squall movement, the overall trend of the snow squalls collectively is sagging to the south. And the reason why is because as that circumpolar low moves east and changes direction, that's also going to change the orientation of the winds. So I expect these snow squalls to continue, like I said, into tomorrow, well into tomorrow, and then ending by the time we get to Wednesday morning. We're certainly going to see some pretty nice accumulations out in this area. And we've already seen some accumulations as well to the north of that, some pretty appreciable ones at best. We also have another area out towards the eastern Great Lakes, and that's going to be right by Buffalo. As you can see, we have a lot of backed westerly flow. Snow squall there is moving pretty quickly. And I also know for a fact that we're also going to be dealing with some pretty strong winds there as well. So there's not a blizzard warning necessarily. There's lake effect snow warnings right within the Buffalo vicinity. Keep in mind, though, that with sustained winds of 30 to 35 miles per hour, gusting even higher at times, could see some whiteout conditions. I mean, remember, the snowfall rates on these things are, in some cases an inch to a couple of inches per hour based on the sheer instability coming off of the lake. A lot of that having to do with colder air that advects over the lake. And it's actually not really drawn by that arrow. This wind vector that I drew is more representative of that snow squall, where you have pretty much westerly flow or almost perpendicular fetch, essentially, crossing the lake. And that helps to produce some pretty significant snowfall just to the south there at Buffalo. So we're certainly seeing that. Conditions definitely deteriorating pretty rapidly here in this area. That's been the case here over the last several of hours. Persons traveling near Buffalo, I mean, be mindful that it's going to get pretty nasty. I would not recommend any travel through that snow squall whatsoever. It's going to be incredibly dangerous, and it's going to be very challenging even for snow removal to really keep up with that as we go into the overnight and into tomorrow. So that's really the case. I mean, that's where we're at right now with these snow squalls. The main storyline really being the eastern Great Lakes, and as we just saw, folks just to the east of Lake Michigan. So as we go forward in time for the rest of tonight and then going into tomorrow, let's take a look at that here. By the time we get to Tuesday morning, those snow squalls continue for areas of the eastern Great Lakes, and then also Grand Rapids, Traverse City, Michigan, and even back up towards Marquette. So that trend will go into tomorrow, at least according to the NAM 3K, and the other convective allowing models do agree with this. And then by the time we get to Tuesday evening, it does subside in Grand Rapids, but we still see those snow squalls continuing for the eastern Great Lakes, especially Erie, PA, and to the south of Buffalo. That's going to preclude right around noon of Wednesday before we then see a return of snow shower activity to the region. That's not going to be in the form of snow squalls. It's actually more of a disturbance that drops down and brings a burst of snow on top of what's already fallen. So that's certainly going to be a concern once again for areas of the eastern Great Lakes. We talked about Grand Rapids. You guys certainly have warnings out for you guys for the snowfall there. But the main concern and the immediate concern going over the next couple of days is going to be the eastern Great Lakes as we see a continuation of those snow squalls during that period. And so if we were to look at the remaining snow totals, just looking at the NBM, it's actually going to show it pretty well here. And let's actually go to winter. We'll pull up snow total. So rendering now, but if we go back, yeah, look at where your highest snow totals are, guys. And this is the numerical blend of models. We're talking about definitely north of 12 inches of snowfall for the eastern Great Lakes, while areas around Grand Rapids will likely see anywhere between, we'll say about 4 to 8 inches of snowfall. The worst of it will certainly be in the eastern Great Lakes, as well as even Lake Superior, Huron. Could see some snowfall totals even in the just to the west of Hamilton, Ontario, in upwards of, say, a foot as well. And again, this is the NBM, so it's the numerical blend of models. And that's taking all the different solutions that we have in our portfolio, averaging them out to give a kind of a general mean on what to expect. So the fact that the NBM is outputting over, a foot of snow for areas of the Eastern Great Lakes says a lot. Now keep in mind that the NBM does tend to, give an average spread, so the numbers here even might be somewhat underdone. That's why I mentioned here, definitely north of a foot, because these snow squalls will likely put down higher amounts based on snowfall rate. So I would not be surprised to see locally higher amounts in places like Erie, PA, and just near, say, Buffalo. Certainly wouldn't be a surprise to see even close to, say, 15 to 18 inches of snowfall in that area, especially with what we've seen this evening. And as we go into the rest of the week, the next sort of concern for winter weather, this is going to look like a broken record, guys. When we look at the overall weather pattern, we'll look here at our 500 millibar wind speed. This is our jet stream level. Taking a look here at the GEFS, once again, it's not a broken record, but we have a shortwave trough that moves through the four corner states. Meanwhile, our polar jet back towards the north will bring continuous cold air into the upper northern regions of the United States and southern regions of Canada. But then that trough continues to dig and moves northeast into New England. And like I said, it's pretty much a broken record. You got moisture advection into this region, likely going to see rainfall yet again for the higher metropolitan areas of Boston, New York City, Newark, New Jersey in the northeast. Whereas in places like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, it would be expected to then see some snowfall on the northern flank of that trough. We'll have to continue to monitor the situation. I'm not going to show any snowfall totals at the moment, but what I will show you is just the overall, general precipitation depiction. And so if we look at that, you notice, guys, this is a broken record. Honest to God, I think I've said that 3 times, but I mean it, right? The GFS is also outputting a system just like what we saw this past week, where much of the northeast New England gets rainfall, with the exception of the higher elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, upstate New York, that gets snowfall out of that. Like I said before, we're not going to go over snow totals tonight. It is still very far out to even talk about that. But what is noticeable is that the general trend here, at least over the next week or two, is for snowfall to really encompass the far northern reaches of New England, while the rest of the major metropolitan areas in the northeast and New England stay pretty much just, confined to rainfall. So we'll continue to monitor those conditions, guys. I appreciate you sticking around. Like I said, I know I've been under the weather in the last 24 hours. Thank you for bearing with me on this, but like I said, I want to get this video out. As I always mention, and I want to encourage you guys to do this, if you have any questions about anything we talked about in this video, post those in the comments below. If you have questions about your area over the next week or so, or if you have a weather-related question, feel free. I definitely want to encourage interaction on this channel, and I'm happy to respond to any questions or comments that you have below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always appreciate your support, and we will see you back here, fingers crossed, tomorrow on how I'm feeling. Fingers crossed on another weather video. Take care. Bye-bye.